The brother which I told you all about, he's a scholar and a very, very, very hard worker. And he did much with the construct of the quitclaim deed and the trust instrument. He also made a few more modifications, you know, when I went back over there. And but he was going to come tonight, but he had to turn around. So I'm going to put you on the mic, too. Give them, tell them your experience, etc., because they've been looking forward to it. Islam, y'all.
Islam. Islam.
Thank you, good brother.
All right, brother.
All right. Looking forward to you. I'm going to check you out Saturday, right?
All right, yes, sir. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Saturday. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, good brother. All right, greetings to the family.
Okay, I'll let you know.
All right, Islam, peace. So that's what the instruments that I was showing you. And I did a little bit more modification, and he did a little bit more modification, so we're going to upgrade it a little bit more.
Okay.
But this is back to what we're saying conceptually. You know, if people would understand the concept, you know, and they have to, we were talking with Sandra today too, me and Brother Rob.
Right.
You know, if people can get it clear in their mind that the only thing going on here is Moors who've been branded Negro, Black, and colored, and Europeans who are falsely claiming to be Americans to steal their birthright, and your whole politics is rooted in that. When and if you get off that key and that consciousness, you get into arguments that are not real. You may hear a lot of arguments, but you're already in a false matrix. Now, the point that I'm making is, and one of the reasons he was going to come down, because he wanted to share that information, because they just came from court the other day, right? Now, the house that they're in, they hadn't made the extortion donation for about 6.5 years. And then, of course, they hadn't been paying city taxes just as long.
Right.
Right? And of course, I went over there a couple of years ago, and I know them, he's like family, but he was studying for a minute with some other brothers, etc. And so I, went over there, gave them some information, and he was already a scholar, but I blew his stuff out of the water, and he's been on skates ever since. You know what I mean? And he has a very, very, very extremely and unusually supportive wife, and that's rare. And she's always got his back, and she's always she works with him. I'm so grateful for him for that, because I don't see that kind of stuff, not around us anyway. And because they pretty much destroyed most of our families, our families are pretty much done. But being young and seeing that, it's like so rare, you know what I mean? It's like almost amazing, Talk about miracles. But I gave him lesson books, and I gave him some stuff that I hadn't published too. And he and she has those type of minds, some people you can give them stuff and they can see. They can see. And they've been getting to work. But the beauty of it is because he has comprehension, they understand. He stands before the magistrates with pure authority. Because he already knows what their limits are, etc. You don't have to keep telling him, trying to convince him, because it's in his heart, it's in his mind. And she's got his back, and she's like that too. She's like, because she ain't letting, she's mother. And it's just beautiful. But I wanted, I'm glad that I was able to get him on the phone for you all to hear. And that's the instrument that I showed you all. We did go over parts of it, and I want to take a moment to go over it again for those who, hadn't had an opportunity to share with it. But my point is this, we were talking earlier with Sister Sandra, right? The operatives are operating, as you already understand, on the admiralty law, booty and prize brought onto the land. We already know that. It's not so much the issue that many people don't know that. So therefore their approach is incorrect. And many people aren't aware of the distinction between the allodial nature of the American Constitution and the feudal nature of the democracy system set up in 1871 secretly for the overthrow. And so when you're talking politics and you're talking properties and of persons, and protections of properties and persons, you have to understand the politics and the law and the history together. You cannot be absent of that consciousness. Because what occurs is people have a tendency to begin to argue the symptoms, how they feel, their emotions, and start preying on things, and it is a totally incompetent position. However, the people are so used to that kind of pattern that they do it because they think it means spirituality, which it really doesn't. Unfortunately, but that's how our community works. And they just sacrifice generation after generation, sacrifice their families, and they just spin their wheels and then get frustrated. Then start new black organizations to deal with black issues when they don't even know that the brand kills their status. They know everything but themselves. I'm going to tell you about Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, Buddha, Sharia law, Hadith, and then turn around and call themselves black. And then kill everything about their right of estate, not even knowing that, meaning that we're so absent in basics, but yet so claim to be so thorough in spirituality. We're full of stuff. And of course, people are not going to pull us to the table because we've got big egos, and we can fight pretty good too. So people don't, will come right at us and say, one of y'all people's biggest problems that you The only thing black about you is your hearts, and you're hypocrites. And you keep selling yourselves out and then blaming the devil. You know, and it's true, but they won't say it like that because you already know how we change real quick. We get like, you know, wrinkle in the eye and stuff, come out the coats and stuff. We do. We do. And people know that too because we can box. Even when we can't box, we can box compared to everybody else.
Right.
So they kind of, you know, unless they're down the corner, they don't get on the bad side too much. You know. But this is true. But conceptually, and knowing that all those magistrates are Masons, you know, they're Knights Templars or Knights of Malta, you know, Shriners, you know, Knights of Columbus, you know, all of it's Masonry. You know what I mean? So they know the history, and they can't have them positions without being Masons anyway. You know, because they cannot run government without knowing the real history. So they have to belong to secret societies because that's what the secret societies are really about. You know, now, and to keep the people from it, you know, they always say devil. And as soon as they say devil, our people's eyes get glassy, and they do. They get glassy, and they get, you know, they get this like zombie type look. You know, they start telling us, naughty. You know, you got sneaks on. It's the devil. And they start that stuff. 1 and 1 is 2. Not really. You know, I'm serious. We do that. And then everybody else in the world's ahead of us.
Yeah.
Why we're so saved, and we ain't figured that out yet. Why our babies are dying younger and younger on the street. Families falling apart.
Yep.
You know, families broke up. Oh, we're full of it.
Yep.
We really are. But anyway, I'm going to share that with you again, and we'll talk about it a little bit, because the important thing, or the point that I'm making is that ultimately, I really know that the battle is spiritual. When we say spiritual, we know that spirit is breath, but also the word is breath. But it's also understanding the ethereal effect, or the electrical magnetic fields of the earth. You know, and if we can move the minds, because man is mind, because you don't need a lot. You only need a handful of men and women actually to change history. But one of the divine keys are that the sincerity level must be past an apex. Meaning the sincerity, even though we're all imperfect, the sincerity has to be at such a pure level that it connects with the electrical field. Wow. And that's how real spirit works. You know, what they don't get religion. We're talking about how real religion works. And so what it does, it actually begins to purify the corruption of the cell memories of others. It interconnects, just like an electrical field. And actually all living things operate like that. This is why the dark priesthood created what you call dogmata. And dogmata is counterfeit religion. That's its purpose. It's actually its purpose. You know, and when you actually know what the dark priesthood did, you know, you're not spending a lot of energy burning your mind on symptom things, where most of the masses will be arguing symptom things and thinking they're going to fix something. They're not going to fix a thing. But if you understand the adeptus levels of the priesthood themselves, when they play their cards, you see their cards coming. You know, so all you have to do is do that reflective mirror. You know, like that, when they say turn the other cheek, that just simply means in your mind's eye, you turn your pineal gland or that thalamus nerve like a mirror and just bless them back what they're trying to bless you, because the blessing means shed your blood. It doesn't mean goodwill. So when they say bless you, duck, because it doesn't mean what people think it means. And dark priesthoods know that, but they know the masses don't know that. Do you understand what I'm saying, Peter? That's why when people come around them that know, sometimes you don't even have to speak and they'll know who you are when you walk into the room. Because there's an energy field.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so They do. And don't you ever think they don't. You know, so when you come around them and they're feeding, now when you have them in those mosques, church, synagogues, and temples, and in courtrooms, what the masses don't know, that all of them are high priests. What they do with the knowledge is the issue. Do you understand? People's concepts about it is incorrect. Now, I want to go over the Clearfield Doctrine for a minute with you all to give you an idea of what the high priests already know when you walk into those venues. Now, when you understand what their lack of position is, everything that you entertain will be with this concept already rooted in your mind. Also, with the knowledge that the land is Morocco and that the United States Corporation is a company and not a nation. And all corporate subdivisional entities, including every entity referred to as, quote unquote, the state of, are members of the Roman Curia. When you're clear of that in your mind, etc., and you're talking to any persons representing any entity, you know, any so-called corporate entity, you know that you're talking to the USA, United States Corporation Company, good brother. Do you understand? Now, when you understand that and it's clear in your mind, you are not confused as to whom you're talking to, and your language will not be in what you would call a submissive vein. It will be respectful, but on the square. Do you understand? They will recognize it already because they're travelers, they're traveler men. And they know that the land is Morocco. They know that the average dummy that comes in there think their versions of God gives them some kind of superpower. And that the judge is shaking in his boots type thing. You know, really. You know, Lord, don't like ugly. They start that kind of stuff. And he's supposed to be scared and get on a break. You know? You know, I'm just saying, you'd be surprised at how people really think. And I'm not knocking them for that, because that's a training. However, it's a misrepresented training. And now, for those who have notes, take notes, keep in mind, this is predicated on the knowledge of the coup that took place in 1871 secretly. So put first, 1861, Congress adjourned sine die, right? Because it's important for you to have this concept in your mind when you're talking to them. That's any of them. Doesn't matter whether you're dealing with federal, state, municipal, city, police department, sheriffs, priests, imams, rabbis, master masons, skull and bones, Kyklos, Ku Klux Klan, Union Guard, Daughters of American Revolution, ISIS, etc., Grand Matrons, doesn't matter. They're all Gnostics and they're all high priests. And they all know this. That's where they get their degrees. Do you understand? You know, it's sort of like people keep assuming that people that have those power positions don't know stuff. They just inspired. Most of the positions are political. Do you understand? All right. Now, 1861, Congress adjourned. in a deer. That means without day. 1871, coup. This is where they secretly converted or undermined the American Constitution in its Republican form of government set at Article 4, Section 4. And so they overthrew the Republic in order to institutionalize what is connotatively referred to as slavery in all of the southern states. Because of this Republican format, the American Constitution is derived from Muslim law, which is what Obama was talking about when he went to Eclipto. And so in order to institutionalize slavery, they had to dismantle all the Republican forms of government in the southern states because of its relationship to the quote-unquote so-called Negro, which are really Moors, in order to put them in what you call bureaucratic servitude under the corpse of the 14th Amendment and its legacy. So these things must be already comprehended in your mind so that you understand what any politician really knows secretly that they're not discussing with people when they're talking to people who are before them under any condition, matters not. Meaning it is sort of like, and not unlike, when you grow up, 90% of the people when you're going out taking care of any business, they're not going to have a discussion with you. They accept, not always correctly, by default that you can count and that you know your ABCs. They don't expect you as adults to get up and start talking about, well, what I want to let everybody know is ABC, D, E, F, G. And then everybody starts, hey, and start clapping and stuff. You know, they don't, you do that for the little, 2 years old, but you don't expect that of adults. But in the real world, as far as the real operations of government, we are in that type of status. And so they refer to our people as boys and girls and wards of the state because of their mental state and lack of knowledge of fundamental civilization, even though their forefathers are the founders of civilization. However, we don't view ourselves that way. They do. And it's not just with arrogance, it's because it's kind of true. Really? Because if it weren't, this type of conversation wouldn't be strange to most of our people. Yeah. They talk about their beliefs, talk about facts, and they start getting cross-eyed and mad and thinking you got a devil.
That's right.
They do.
That's true.
Don't think they don't. They do.
Yep.
When you ain't a believer, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is where they subverted the Republic. Subverted. Now, keep in mind, between this period here, 2 years prior to the coup, right? They created the courts. Which of course is the straw man. Now this is where they could classify, or what they can call legally register Christian property. It just happened to be humans. And this would be called, in French, chattel, for cattle. That's where you get chattel from, it's French. All right? Now, of course, with France, or the Franciscan Brotherhood, you have codes noirs, 1620. That becomes what is known as the Black Codes, that was set in forth in 1868 when they created the 14th Amendment corpse. That's where you get corporation from. All right, and then they gave corpse the quality of person. So these concepts must already be in your consciousness without you having to think and analyze. Just like you don't sit around and think and analyze. Let me see, A, B, C. You know, you don't sit around and, you know, same thing. It's got to be in your head. And when you are there in the consciousness of your bloodline and who's who, you're not angry, you're, how would you say, ready for battle. Knowing that they're there to steal your birthright. Do you understand? And the first thing he looks for to see if you got a brand, which means his name. Do you understand? See, so anyone that has his name in law is already agency, in a state of agency. Are we clear? This is the reason why the Christians put their family names on the Moors after they defeated them. Do you understand? And this is why they set up the color code system so that the people would not deal with pedigree. So then you have the heirs of the estate thinking that human beings are crayons, and as soon as they go out in the world talking about, you know, the light-skinned orange girlfriend and my dark-skinned purple aunt with my light-skinned black leather shoes, you know, and my Negro cousin, you know, they already know that that person is a ruler estate. Their language tells them that already. Now, as soon as they start talking like that, in law, they're already declared dead and incompetent. And especially if they Smith, Jones, and Johnson. So automatically, any argument they make is already dead. Doesn't matter what quality is, how well they speak, what their education level is, matters not. They're under the Black Codes. And then such persons can't use the common law. So write that down, common law. And these principles are very conceptually important because you have to understand that these are thought components that are in the construct of all legal instrument without conversation. Likewise, the coup is in there without being spoken. But if you know the history, you would understand how to use this in any case. Doesn't matter, from a ticket to a foreclosure, to a credit card, to a law firm, to whatever. It matters not. From murder to whatever. That applies. Do you understand? And logically, persons who don't know this never would think to apply it. Because unless you know history, it doesn't come off, it doesn't reflect its true meaning, its principles. You can intellectually read it and not understand that what occurred was, with this, it was about a $24.60 check that was forged and cashed in Clearfield, Pennsylvania. Now, the case has that nomenclature because of that, not because of whom the case applied to. But the fundamental issue is that the U.S. corporation came after the trust company under the principle of latches. The principle of latches is what you call late time. You know, where they give you so much time, and if you don't make a report on something, then under latches, it's dismissed. Yes, it's latches.
Latches.
Right? So with their greed, they're going to come after them anyway and get that $24.60. Well, you know, sometimes some lawyers, you know, like that, they ain't going, for the principle, they ain't losing. So, because remember, they're all Knights Columbus and everything. So, no. See, because now it was an ordinary person they would have lost, but it was a trust company. See, because you got to remember, all your CEOs of trust companies are Knights. They ain't taking the hit. You know, don't play the nigga stuff with us. You do that to the dummies who don't know peanut butter sandwiches. You know, you don't understand? So they come in like, yeah, well, let them go through all this stuff, and then kick their key stores. That's what the Clearfield Doctrine absolutely is. Now, let's go through it, and then we'll explain. All right? And so, whenever you're thinking about anything, think along this line. Think, you know, now, the United States Supreme Court, remember, so it's the Supreme Court case, so it's stare decisis and res judicata already. Stare decisis and res judicata, which means they're settled cases. That means it would stand in any corporate jurisdiction under the United States Corporation, companies, subordinate enterprises or franchisees or pseudo-tribunals posing as courts, etc. All right? So, United States Supreme Court, Clearfield Trust Company versus United States. We won't read the page numbers. This is how you do your research. So it's nomenclature is the Clearfield Doctrine. Now, the Clearfield Trust Company versus United States. Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private corporate commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, and securities, checks, is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. Now, if you know history and law, you understand what that said. You can read that to many people. Intellectually, they understand what it says, and they would demonstrate that they don't know what it's saying. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Do that with us.
Meaning that you can give this stuff to people and they'll read it. Intellectually, they see exactly what it says. They get in any court case, from a ticket to any legal problem, and they won't invoke it, which means they don't get it. Which means they don't understand what this is just saying to them. So, just open mic. Anybody, what do you feel that it's saying? What do you know that it's saying? Put it in that layman's terms.
Would you mind reading it again? Would you mind reading that again?
Clearfield Trust Company versus United States, right? Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private corporate commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, and securities, checks, is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. So what's your thoughts? All right, got any?
I think most of the meaning is on the last sentence.
Yes.
Where purposes of suit.
Yes.
And
so that means if you're in a court for any purposes, you're being sued.
Yes.
Any purpose.
Yes.
You're being sued.
Yes.
You need to know that. If you get a ticket, you're being sued.
Yes.
So it's not saying for suit with regard to Federal Reserve notes and checks, but any suit?
Yeah,
Any
suit.
Now listen, this is it.
See, because I read it.
If a corporation says, Dr. Naila, we heard that you went for a trip down there and you got some gas and you didn't pay no taxes. So you got to come to court. You're going to go to court, you're being sued. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
See, now this is what must be understood. Any process in those courts are suits. It doesn't matter what it is. Subject matter matters not. If you're going to court, you're being sued.
Yep.
Sued by the court?
Anything, no, whoever's
Whoever's bringing
bringing
you to
claim
court.
to the court, you're being sued.
Whoever the
Okay.
plaintiff is.
Now, so the magistrate, right, or the prosecutor says, sis, you had your sneaks on the wrong feet. Now, that's a fine, $1,050. That's a suit. Now, for a suit, it's over $20, you got a right to a jury. Didn't you know that?
That's right.
No, unless you waive it. Now, if you don't know your rights, of course, you ain't got them. Now, under the democracy order, you also don't have it. But this is not a democracy. It's a republic. So they start talking democracy and the people don't correct them. That means they waived their right. They've abandoned their right. Now they got them in the middle of the ocean under admiralty law.
Tom,
It's called, no, was it, go ahead.
2 months ago in Sharon, Pennsylvania, circuit court judge has on the court record that any foreclosure will not have a trial by jury.
Of course, they saying that. Why are they saying that? Because he's dealing with a democracy court. He's not dealing with a legitimate court. He's dealing with a de facto
Court.
venue. So, the republic is du jour. Right?
Yes.
The republic is du jour.
61.
Right? Democracy is de facto. Now, with this coup, they converted the structure of government from a public corporation, service to the people, to a private corporation, service to the Pope. Here, you have right by trial jury of your own national peers. Here, they don't recognize nationality because they've enslaved people. They only recognize that people are coded by colors, property. So there is no trial by jury unless you demand it. But then you better be in your proper person when you start talking trash too. Because if you're not, they're going to put a barrister on it from England on you anyway, and you still lose. Do you understand? So if you understand what's going on, the way that you would think about everything that's going on would be guided by your consciousness of what's really going on before you. Because you're not dumb as to what the magistrate is doing. You see what I'm saying to you? Even different questions that they ask, the structure of the question, you already understand where they're going. So how do you bring it to the common law? You see? Now, so keep in mind common law, right? Because under here is feudal law. And this is allodial in nature. You see? And so you have two different formats of law. They're actually opposite in character. See, but if you're in harmony with the Republic, with the Constitution, you already know that. Just like, for instance, when you know automatically, without too much argument, when somebody's, got a peanut butter factory, and all their workers are on the lawn collecting peanut butter that the dogs have left over there and canning it, and you're not exactly ready to buy it. But if you don't know what peanut butter is, you might be impressed, as long as they drop a little perfume in it. You know, but if it's like this, if you understand that the American Constitution is a Republican form of government, you know that it deals with statesmanship. But if they come talking about democracy, you know it means anarchy in government. Why? Because you understand what those things are. Nobody don't have to tell you. This is with that comprehension without this being argued. Meaning the background of this knowledge is embodied in there. Do you understand?
Don't it went out of my old head. I said it went out of my brain for a moment, it'll come back.
Come back to you. Just feel like that.
Oh, I thought I was gonna think I did. Why then does this de facto government have us pledging allegiance to a republic that does not stand and that they declare stands?
Because it's like this. It's like jab and hook you. It's like, and you go. In other words, they present one thing, hit you with another. But, you know how they say, defend yourself at all times? Right? Now, remember grade school. Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin, George Washington was a general in the Army. Chief Justice Ben Bey, they call him Ben Banneker, suggested that Washington be given Ben Franklin's position. Yeah. Do you understand? Now, because Ben Franklin was absent at the time, he was actually in England, etc. And he wasn't there to sign the treaty with the Moors. And see, so at first, the ministers plenipotentiary with the treaty superseding the Constitution were all being prepared for praetorship, which means successively they were to hold the position of president. Ben Franklin was to be first, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, ministers plenipotentiary under Sidi Muhammad, Emperor of Morocco. This is why they were called founding fathers, meaning that they were brought into the republic. And that's why they must all wear feathers, you see? That's what Masonry actually is. Masonry is Islam, but it's not spooky Islam. Spooky Islam and Christianity is the same thing. It's just a flip side of the same coin. Do you understand what I'm saying? But the imams and the rabbis and master masons all got Korans on a Kabbalistic level, not on an emotional believer level. Meaning that the masses get dogma. The rulers keep the religion. The masses are trained to think they got religion. That's what keeps them under control.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Secret Treaty of Rome.
Why do you think Masons are Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, everybody? And they all take their shoes off at the door. They don't believe what they teach the masses. That's the soup. You know, that's the opiate that keeps them, you know, glassy-eyed and paying for those $3,000 suits, and you know, Susie gets Jesus' half and nobody notices it. And she's in Bahamas every year with Rev. It's the truth. I mean, there's nothing new. It's never been anything new. It's not a mystery. But they act like it's a mystery. Oh, so surprised. Hi. I seen Reverend Butchie Guy with Sister Choir Singer. And, you know,
And they were singing on the beach too. But Jesus was half.
that stuff is never new. And you take like Master Masons, rabbis, imams, never for the public, but in secret they got Quran, they got the Vedas, they got Septuaginta, they got Bibles when King James was Prince, they have WASPI, they have let's see, Vedas, WASPI, Septuaginta, Torah, Tanakh, Talmud, Hexatah, Pentateuch. They got all the books. Do you understand? But the masses are never given that. The masses think like if they're in the mosque, they only got Quran. If they're in the church, they only got a Bible. And that's what they teach to their believers. In secret, they got all the books.
Wow.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? That qualifies them for their degrees. You know, the believers pay the bills. You know, just like today, for instance, like if you want to talk about science, Islam is a science. You want to talk about Prophet Muhammad, you know, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. They ran him out. They don't give these people the original books. They deal with hadith. The scholars tell them what the prophet said, not the prophet telling them what the prophet said. Same thing with Yeshua. They ran him out of, just like they ran Prophet Muhammad. And they talk about Paul and Peter. And then lying on Yeshua. And won't even admit his name is Yeshua, that there's no J in Aramaic. And Yeshua is coming in everywhere he went. What was he known for? As soon as he meet people, Assalamu alaikum. That is his greeting, Aramaic. And they'll say, what's he said? Peace be unto you. But they'll never say it in Aramaic. Why? Because they throw you out of them churches. What's the truth? Because they lying on him, and they know they lying on him. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And everybody knows it but the believers who keep paying the bills. But they know the Lord is, they're full of doo-doo. And of course, they get taken advantage of, and then they want to pray on it all the time. It's the truth. It is shameful. And it never works.
That's right.
You know, my grandpa, you know, because we had all this land in North Carolina, and we supposed to get inherited, you know. But I got to give it to grandpa, because he prayed on it while he was choking at the end of the rope. Right. Stop. And they took the land, you ain't got stuff. Come on, how many generations we going to keep playing with our people?
That's right, man.
Acting like this stuff has worked for us, and it hasn't. But we're too arrogant to admit that it hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked.
And then we send it to, then wonder why the children don't trust the adults anymore.
Yeah.
They ain't prayed enough. They didn't give Reverend Jones $5. They probably went to the movies.
You know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, because Reverend Jones went to the Bahamas with us last year. This is the truth. But anyway, so this is with the understanding that when you're dealing with any case in law, what you do, you don't call him judge because he will accept your offer and accept the position. Because it doesn't exist for him. Why? Clearfield doctrine. You know, like when we give people House Joint Resolution 192 and expose that all the seats have been transferred to the IMF. All of their positions. Right?
Yes.
So, as an example, let's drop this down just temporarily. And So here, this is on the congressional records, right? So you have, now keep in mind, this is the House of Representatives, and so you can see, this is a little bit about James Traficant, and you know they just bumped him off recently. So we're going to go down to his speech in the House. Now, again, all of these things are in your mind and in your knowledge base when you're looking at the Clearfield Doctrine. Understand? All right. Now, the United States Congressional Record, March 17th, 1993 is when he made the speech. But what is key, this is why, like, when we're giving people documents, we will give them support information to clean up their concepts so they can understand. Why is it that we structured certain instruments certain ways? Why is it that we're saying what we're saying? And why is it that people are trying to act like we're out to lunch? Because it's not in their interest for the masses to have this knowledge. Because this is liberating, it's redeeming information. Do you understand? It liberates you from both the priesthood and the priesthood. And the hoods act like priests. Right? All right, so that's your reference pages, etc. Now, Mr. Speaker, we're now here in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. Right? We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future, and there are some who say it's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved. How clear can you get? So if it's dissolved, do you understand? Keep in mind that all of your so-called community leaders, your imams, your reverends, your preachers, and all these guys should not be continuously promoting amongst their believers that they're being operated under a legitimate government when they have this information. And then they get a 501c3 skull and bones agreement not to talk about this stuff. And say, yeah, it came from Jesus. We're teaching the word. They do, and people believe them. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because I have got a phone number. I talked to them last week. Because I'm teaching the word. That's why it's a blessing that we don't pay taxes. Yeah, Caesar. All you got to do is put Jesus in the place and people believe it. You know, just like, for instance, they did the research and see that the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed is the official name of Christianity. Ain't got nothing to do with no Jesus. It's Constantine and his mother, and that's who they're paying tithe to. It's called 10% Roman tax. And then they lie and say, well, Moses set up for the Lord's half. And people believe that too. The record doesn't support it, but the doctrine supports it. You see the point? Meaning the preachers say one thing, the record says another.
So 10%.
It's called tithe. In research, it means 10% Roman tax. That's what tithe means.
So there's no other documentation.
Pope Sylvester II, do the research, you'll find it out. Pope Sylvester II set up the tithe system. We're talking about what any scholar can find out. We're not talking about any mystery stuff. Any scholar can find it out, even though they kind of bury this information. You do some digging in a good library and you'll find it. But of course, they're not going to like throw that around because they want people to think that, you know, that's God's half. Type thing. You know, even though the same book will say, even though we know it must be qualified, we'll tell them that Jesus was a Jew, then they'll turn around and say he brought Christianity. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the record says Constantine and his mom did it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And then people will guide their lives accordingly. Doesn't mean that Christianity is bad. Don't misunderstand. It's misrepresented.
Yes.
Do you understand? All right. And it's definitely not spiritual instruction. It's emotional instruction.
The point was, I know there was the Septuagint was the other verse that you mentioned. I think you mentioned that earlier. The Septuagint was a scriptures. And at what point was King James? Do you know the date that was written?
All right. Septuagint, and sometimes referred to as Septuaginta, was the first of your major translations appointed by the Pope, with 72 scholars.
Okay.
Now, in accord with the culture from which it is derived, because it's based on the science or the culture of the Muslim world, which is Circle 7. And so the power of 7 must be preserved. And so instead of saying because septu actually means 7. Just like September is actually the 7th month.
Yeah.
But the people think it's the 10th.
9th.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Octa is what?
8.
8.
Nova is 9. Deci is 10. But they know that people can't read and they can't count. So the priesthood, no, serious. So the priesthood have trained these people just like animals. Wow. And then all they got to do is say that the Lord knows you, and they think you can't tell them nothing. They are out of sequence of nature. Now, does divine law and nature recognize person or station? So what happens when you're out of harmony with nature? You're out of harmony with the Creator. That's why they tamper with the calendars. Wow. I mean, it's no secret, but when you start talking facts to our people, they start getting emotional. It's shirk. It's the devil. Naughty. And they start that stuff, get cross-eyed, and watch out, the vibrations is getting deep. Put your, the big fishing boots, because it's really getting deep. Put them on. I'm serious. So, Septuaginta is the first translation in Hebrew, or what you call Hebrew, is Hebrew and Latin. Do you understand? Now, Septuaginta, those are your first translations out of the Book of the Dead and the ancient scripts of Hikupta. Do you understand? Because the story of the rising and movement of the sun is ancient. It goes back multiple thousands of years. So the story of Jesus is a remake.
Well, hit that again, man.
The story of Jesus is a remake of what already existed. And all priests know it. All of them know it.
What do you mean remake?
Meaning that if you want to talk about Horus and Osset.
Horus, hours.
Yes, we get hours. Yeah.
Hours.
Horus and Osset. Osset sometimes referred to as Isis. With Horus on her knee. This is where you get the image of Mary and Yeshua.
That's what
Jesus. But it goes back even beyond that. Do you understand? For thousands of years, ever since we've been on the planet. Do you understand? But that's personification of heavenly energies. Do you understand? And then your golden candlesticks represent your 7 lords of your 7 major ruling planets that revolve around the sun, although we have 10, actually 13, some that you don't see, but the major ones that cause influence. This is represented by the 7 golden candlesticks in the book of Revelation. It's also represented by the 7 concentric circumambulation ritual in Islam, counterclockwise around the cube, which we call Kaaba. And the culture is Kabbalism. It is spiritual geometry. It is the workings of nature, etc. So your Circle 7 culture must be preserved. This is why you have Septuaginta, 7. Although 72 scholars did the work, they're preserving the culture. Now, logically, any theologian who studies religion must know that, because they must know how their particular dogmas or what they call section of the pie that they cut, sex, how it was derived. They'll just say, sex, because we don't want them to know we sected it up, sectionalized it, so tell them it's denomination. Wow. Deception. The very people they trusted are the dark priests. And then they say, well, you can't tell them that that's a uterus, because they might wake up to the divine nature of how things really operate. That's not how you're going to pull them in the pit. We'll call the pulpit.
Oh.
Wow.
They won't know the difference. They can't read. They're vampires.
Wow.
The book of Thessalonians 1 and 2 tell them this is didn't I tell you all when I was yet with you that they would put themselves up on the throne, claim to be God? What point y'all forgot that?
That's what it said.
And then as soon as people look at the record, they see when did they do that? 325 years after they bumped him off. They had a meeting called the Nicene Council with the Bishopric of Rome. And they made up what is known as the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, which is the official name of what they call Christianity.
Apostles' Creed.
And then, for the deliberate and specific purpose of suppressing the cosmological, astrological culture of the ancient world, i.e., in short, the Arian heresy. What is the Arian heresy? What is Aries? Aries is the cycle at just the mid part of April to March, into April, March the 21st, when we come into the Arian constellation, and they call the star is now in the east. And Venus will come into the eastern skies. You can see it every spring. And the crescent moon comes there. That's where you get Cosmo that you see in Islam, which is the crescent and the star. It is Venus, the bright morning star, that's talked about in the Bible.
Yeah.
Right there in the crescent moon, which is Cosmo, which is the science of nature's religion. That's where the crescent and the star symbol is. It's not because of Islam, the creed, it's because of divine laws of nature herself. Expression of creation. And then, so they'll call it Astarte, Ishtar, Eastar.
Eastern Star.
And then the women who know the science are called Eastern Stars.
Yep.
That's why all the matrons in the churches are Eastern Stars, while denying it in the public. Do you understand? Anyway, but cutting through the chase, so the Septuaginta are, in fact, your first Bibles. So if someone's going to tell you, and they're going to have Bible lessons, well, what we want to do today, children for the Lord, we're going to have Bible study. And everybody gets teary-eyed. Let me get myself together. Yeah. And then somebody messes up the whole conversation, and Dr. Naila says, all right, I got my Septuagintas over here. Anybody got your Septuagintas? And everybody start looking cross-eyed, don't know what you're talking about. How are you going to have a Bible study when they're not giving you the foundation of it? Septuaginta. Satisfactory? All right. So keep in mind that those persons in positions of power in all secret societies, they're only secret because there is no secret. They're only secret because it's not discussed amongst the masses. Do you understand? So it's called open secret. All right? All right. Now, and so they know that law and history go together. If you start talking like this, you go into any church, mosque, synagogue, and start talking like we're talking right now, the first one that's going to get wrinkled eyebrows is the reverends, the preachers, the imams, and the rabbis, etc. And start talking about sin going to heaven and hell in a basket and all that kind of stuff. Take your children to 295 at lunchtime play. Yep. Why? Because this messes with their finance. See, because they always want to introduce a God who's always broke. Delivers nothing but promises every week. And the people ain't caught on to that yet either.
So is that why they got the Pope coming to rape Philadelphia coming next year?
See, what must be understood when you understand the history, he's coming looking over his provinces. That's why all of the corporate states must defend, protect, and cover the cost of his protections and travels. They don't spend any finance. It's called the doctrine of discovery. Why don't people know that? But they're going to talk like he visiting some foreign stuff that ain't his, and people, doesn't matter what religion they're there, and why should they have to pay for him visiting? Because they're his subjects. That's why. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You know, their ego doesn't allow them to accept the fact that they've been conquered. Because we go to the mosque, it ain't my Pope. Yes, yes, because them Bibles are printed in London. I mean, them Qurans printed in London. Y'all didn't know that? Wow. Come on, we're ego trips. We're full of it. You know, scholars know this. In other words, once we get over ourselves, humble ourselves, start dealing with the facts, and get as moral as we pretend to be, we can clean up the mosque, the church, and the synagogues in our communities. Until then, they will remain as they are and, of course, get worse. Do you understand why our hypocritical selves can't cure anything? Because we won't deal with truth. Anyway, so it is a status fact the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June the 5th, 1933, Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental offices.